So today, for today's Faces of Faith, we are talking about how millennials are leaving the church in droves. And if you need proof, all you need to do is look online, because websites like Reddit, which is a favorite among millennials, has more than 2 million people subscribed to a page on atheism. But the Christianity page has less than a tenth of that, 67,000.
And then there is this survey from 2012. 1 in 4 young adults say that they are, quote, unaffiliated with any religion, though many claim a religion when they were younger. To talk more about this, we have brought along 2 millennials. Joining us on the phone is Rachel Evans, who is an evangelical blogger, that is, an author, and she is 32. And the reason she's on the phone is because the weather up, I guess, by Nashville is pretty bad. And also, we have Hemant Mehta. He is the editor of Friendly Atheist. I keep wanting to say the friendly, but it's friendlyatheist.com. He's author, or he is an author. He's also 30. And they both wrote about this at CNN.com's Belief blog. And welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
Rachel, let's start with you. You guys have slightly different opinions, but Rachel, why do you think millennials are turning away from the church?
Yeah, well, I think there's this assumption among a lot of Christian leaders that, you know, if we bring in some hipper worship bands and a coffee shop in the fellowship hall and maybe a pastor who wears skinny jeans, young adults will come flocking back to the church. But clearly that's not working. According to the Barna Group, 59% of young adults ages 18 to 29 with a Christian background have actually dropped out of church. Now, not all of these young adults are flocking to atheism. In fact, most still identify as Christians, still identify as people of faith, but they're not going to church anymore. And so what I find interesting is that 41% of these millennials with a Christian background who have dropped out of church say they're not looking for a hipper version of Christianity. They're actually looking for a more traditional faith. So I think folks are leaving not because they're not getting lattes. I think they're leaving because they're not feeling like they're connecting with Jesus. And so I think they're looking for churches that care for the poor, that make social justice like anti-trafficking initiatives a priority.
All right, Rachel, let me just stop you for a minute, because I want Hemant to join the conversation here. And Hemant, you wrote about atheism. What makes that attractive for younger people?
Well, like Rachel said, not all the millennials who are leaving church are necessarily flocking to atheism, but if you ask young people, if you ask millennials, what comes to mind when they think of Christianity, when they think of the church, they will tell you it's anti-gay, anti-doubt, anti-woman, anti-science, anti-sex education. We all know what the church is against, and we really don't care what the church is for when you have that much baggage. And so for a lot of young people, they want to get away from the church. And more importantly, though, as atheists, we're kind of bringing them along. We like exposing the church for all the bad things it does. And we say, like, look, we have reason on our side. All the evidence, all reality points to our side away from God. And it seems like when you keep pushing that message and you have more atheists coming out of the closet and being willing to say they are atheists, all of a sudden you have more people flocking not just away from the church like Rachel is saying, but I think toward a place where, okay, God isn't so much an issue in their lives anymore.
So Rachel, you and Hemant, you obviously have very disparate views here, but I did notice in reading both of your columns, there was something you both talked about, and that was a tension between science and religion. For instance, you both talked about how people are torn between being devoted to a religion and perhaps how their religion treats their gay friends. You know, in the case of science and religion, Hemant says that science always wins out. Do you think that's the case?
Well, I mean, I absolutely agree with Hemant on that, about the reputation that the church has is often that we're hateful, or that gay and lesbian people are not welcome in the church, or that people have to choose between their intellectual integrity and their faith when it comes to science. So what I think young people are really looking for is not a church that answers all of their questions, but a community of faith where they feel safe wrestling with these tough questions that related to science, related to sexuality. So I do agree that that's a problem, and that we need to do better at creating those safe environments so that folks don't feel like they have to leave the church to ask their toughest questions about faith, their toughest questions about how science and faith are compatible, or that they can find those places to have those conversations within the church. We need to create environments where we can have this conversation.
Hammond, you wrote about influential Christians like, Rick Warren, Mark Driscoll, and Pat Robertson, and said that they're pushing people away. How so? Is it their personality? Is it just because they seem to be the face of that faith?
Yeah, well, it's very easy to dismiss someone like Pat Robertson because he says so many crazy things on the air. But you never really hear about some of the more popular current Christian pastors like Rick Warren, who said so many awful things against gay people. You never hear so much about Mark Driscoll, who said so many things belittling women in a relationship. And even, someone like Rob Bell, who has a lot of street cred with younger Christians, even he is like equivocating on the idea of hell existing. And when you have even, cool Christians saying that, okay, you know what, even I'm doubting some of the things that we've always known to be true in the faith, it kind of makes you second guess, whether you want to be a part of a faith like that. And it's very easy to, again, as an atheist, to say, you know what, you should just abandon those faiths altogether, because it's not just Christianity is unpopular, but it's untrue. And there's so many resources now that young people have access to that shows why it's not just Christianity that's unpopular. It's not just that it's wrong. It's that all religion just has no merit when it comes to the truth.
All right, Hammond, we have to end it there. And Rachel Evans, and of course, this is just a philosophical debate that we're having this morning. Thank you very much for joining us as we discuss faith and young people. We appreciate it. Boy, you could talk a long time about this.
And their columns are definitely worth checking out on CNN.com. So for more stories on faith, you can check out our Belief blog, our award-winning Belief blog, I should say, at CNN.com/belief.